Ladies and gents, we are back with the Lighthouse Podcast alongside my co-host, good friend Alex Camargo. Today we're going to be talking about a interesting topic, which is challenges, voluntary challenges, involuntary challenges in our lives. Make sure you stay tuned for this. And as always, a way that you can help us is like and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive right into it. All right, Mr. Alex Camargo. Like I said, diving right into it, I think there's not a better opportunity to talk about challenges as it presents itself now, because you just came out of a really hard one, and we're going to talk about that. However, everybody's, at least everybody that I know, most people that you probably know is facing a challenge right now. Rather, like I said, voluntary challenges, which is the ones that you choose to do it yourself, and you're just pushing yourself to the limit. Involuntary, those are called oftentimes the floods that will come into your life, and you're fighting through some struggles, and those could be called challenges as well. And we're going to talk about those. Career challenges, for us that do real estate, we understand and we know that it's been a very challenging market for buyers, at times for sellers as well. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that. But as I mentioned, not a better time to talk about, because you just did a challenge yourself, right? What's called 75 hard.
Correct.
Is that it?
Yeah.
75 hard. I've heard on the internet that it's something that the challenge is very, very challenging. Not only mental, but it beats up your body. Share with us a little bit, what was that experience like?
Yeah, so the challenge, and I know very little about the guy who invented it or who came up with the challenge, but a friend of mine just sent me a quick text, hey, and this was about 6 months ago. Hey, I have, you want to do this challenge with me? And at that time, I'm like, I can't commit to it right now, just because I knew that I was just setting myself up to fail. But then you fast forward 4 or 5 months after that, and I'm like, I'm good. I can do it now. So we started, and of course, first person that I challenged was my wife, and she came on board, and then we got a few more people to do the challenge with us. So it's basically 75 hard. You got to do 2 workouts a day, 2 45-minute workouts, one of which has to be outdoors. Right?
Oh, wow. Okay. The people who were participating here in Connecticut, they were happy that it was over summertime. Imagine if you had to go outside.
Yeah, but when you're looking at it from that perspective, I would like to do this again through the winter to up the ante on the challenge.
Right.
Because, you're running outside in an 85-degree weather. That's a breeze.
Yeah.
You're tired, but that in itself doesn't really represent a lot of a challenge. I mean, you're tired, 20, 30, 40 days in, whatever the case is. But you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, do this in the winter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So 2 workouts a day, one of which has to be outside. Those workouts have to be at least 45 minutes. And then you got to drink a gallon of water a day faithfully. That's a challenge. Not day 1, day 2, day 3. It's a challenge when, like the 5 days of the week, Monday through Friday, no problem. It's a challenge when you have to travel somewhere. It's a challenge when you have a day full of things to do with the family. Like on the normal days, you can create the structure for that. On the weekends, when your
life happens.
Exactly. That's a challenge, because you're going to find yourself having to drink 2 or 3 bottles of water, at 10 o'clock at night, just because you got to make up for all of it. And then you got to go to sleep. And then now you're waking up 5-6 times to go pee because of all that water that you drank.
I remember when you guys started, I was looking at the videos, and I followed you guys through the whole entire thing. And that Angie, your wife, talked about that. She said, I didn't expect that the hardest part so far of this challenge was to drink the water.
So 2 workouts, you gotta drink a gallon of water. You have to read 10 pages of a self-help or non-fictional book, but you got to read instead of listening. Right. So I listen to a lot of books, but I don't really have a lot of time to read. So that was a challenge. And in the beginning, I found myself reading books at night. But then I'm like, I can't do this because if I fall asleep, then I fail. Then I got to start over.
Yeah.
So I made a point to read the books while I was having lunch or whatever the case may be, find a break throughout the day to go read the books. You have to take progress pictures along the way. You have to stick to a diet, whatever diet of your choosing, right? When this challenge was presented to me, I didn't know about a couple of the other things that you had in there, but, no cheat meals, no alcohol. And you can look it up online and you find the whole thing, right? So we started it in July. It was really hot. So some days we're running outside and it's almost 100 degrees, but it is what it is. 75 days of it, we just finished 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
In the 75 days of it, what you will learn about yourself the most, or at least that's what I learned about myself the most. And not only from this challenge alone, but we do challenges every year or every other month. Many different challenges, right? You learn how much of a procrastinator you are, or at least that's what I learned, right? You learn how much you don't plan as well as you could have, right? And what's planning? Planning is, I'm going to look at tomorrow's forecast and I'm going to choose the best time of the day for me to go outside and run. But if you don't, the day will start. Let's say you woke up late today, you couldn't go make it to the gym in the morning. Now you go to the gym at 4 or 5 o'clock, and then you still got to get a run in after that. But let's say it's thundering and, this rain coming up, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You go running. Or travel days, sometimes we drove 12 hours a day, so we got to work out in the morning, 4 or 5 a.m., and then we travel 12 hours.
Right.
And then we get to our destination, and it's, this like 2 or 3 hours worth of rain coming in. Doesn't matter. You still got to go out there.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like mental as well.
It keeps you on your toes.
Right.
You're constantly thinking, no matter what happens, I got to get my workouts in. I got to get, I have to drink this water. I got to find time to read the book. And I don't drink. So like looking for alcohol, like that wasn't a challenge at all. And I started eating better as part of my diet. So I found a good structure for my eating every day. Like no matter what happens, every meal, 3 meals a day, I'm going to lead with protein. And I got to get at least 40 to 60 grams of proteins in those meals.
I was going to ask you that because a lot of people talk about if you do something for a certain amount of time, to build a habit, whatever the case may be. We hear different numbers out there. 21 days, 40 days. You've done this challenge for 75 days, which is over 2 months. Was there something that you feel like, oh, this is something that I'm sticking to it from now on? Part of that came out of that challenge, that it became part of your personality, like what you do from now on?
Oh, absolutely. And along the way, you will hear of other people who have been doing the challenge. So I was talking to a friend of mine who already finished the cycle, and I'm like, she finished the cycle before we did, and I'm like, was there a void in you after you finished the cycle? I feel like, the meme, the Pablo Escobar meme, just sitting in the pool, and you're just like, playing with his thumb because there's nothing else for him to do. And she was like, yeah, there's that void. And like now, not eating the way that I was eating for the 75 days is bothering me. So I gave myself a break, right? 3 or 4 days after the challenge, I'm going to eat whatever I want, however I want. Give me all the carbs. But like now I'm lacking that structure. I'm missing that structure. So I bet you it's not uncommon for people to go right back and start the whole thing over again. It's a better structure. So will I do the same thing again now? I'm probably going to wait a month or 2, and I want to do it through the winter because I want the additional challenge of, doing this in cold weather.
Right.
But,
right. And just to do a plug in on that subject, I was reading something related to that. When you when you write down your goals, when you want to do something, you have to do, you have to work as to the goal to be as attainable as possible, because otherwise then you set yourself up for failure and then you no longer want to do it. I'm actually reading a book on this right now. It's called The Winner Effect. Basically, the sum of a big win, it's small wins every day, right? So basically, incremental progress pays off like compound interest, and it's there for everyone. So you make that, like, for example, if somebody wants to, I want to go get back to the gym, I'm going to go 7 days this week. And then on that 8th day, like, you're all sore. Now you're probably going to take 3 days off and you go right back to not going to the gym. Let's just say you start 2 days a week, right? And you make that goal attainable. Or even to read, I want to start reading. Like, instead of like doing 10 pages a day, 15 pages a day, do 2, 3, and then win that. That's a game that you can win.
You get the dopamine from
exactly,
from
and then you know, on the book that I'm reading now, it said that when Mike Tyson came out of prison, his managers purposely had him fight a couple of small timers before he went back to win the title, the world title. Why? They wanted to get that winner effect in his mind before he went right in, because he spent 3 years in jail, if I'm not mistaken. But it's so true. That's so true.
You don't think he fought anybody in jail?
I don't know. We would have heard of that by now. But seriously, like, small wins every day. You know, I'm going to start waking up at 5. Start waking up at 6. And then incrementally you go up to where you need to be. You know, start running. I'm gonna do a half a marathon. You know, start with a 3K. You know, little by little you get there. It's like I said, it's a game that you can win, and then that, like you said, the dopamine gets there, and then now you feel like you can do more. Yeah. But it goes back to what you're saying. Now you did the challenge over the summer. Now, hey, maybe this is something that I can do over the winter, just to challenge yourself.
Yeah, I felt that having to do both of the workouts is a challenge, right? Because it's 7 days a week. It does not stop, right? So overall, you're tired. You know, towards the middle of it, I couldn't run as fast as I usually run. I couldn't pick up weight, and as much weight as I usually would. And even for having worked out consistently for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, you think, okay, I'm stronger now, but I'm tired, you know? So picking up, like, I couldn't add more weight to my routines, right? Or I couldn't run the same distance as fast as I thought I would be at that time, for having done this for 4 or 5 weeks consistently. But it's 4 or 5 weeks consistently without any rest at all, right? So over time, you start tweaking some of the exercises, right? So if I knew that tomorrow's workout was going to be more on my legs, then what I would do today maybe wouldn't be a run. Maybe I would do a fast-paced walk, and I did this plenty of times with the weighted vest on. You know, so that was usually about 3 miles, and that would usually take me about 45, 50 minutes. And just so the constant pounding on my knees, you know, for running 75 days would probably not turn out to be a good thing in the end. So I would try to break that up a little bit. And then other days I would just, I hadn't ridden a bike in decades.
Brazil days. Those are the Brazil days.
So, you know, I took the bike out, and then I started every now and then, maybe once or twice a week, I would just, you know, ride around and you know, get 45 minutes of that. And it still sucks. I hate riding a bike, but whatever, you know. But just to still get the exercise, but to lessen the impact on my knees. And then little by little, you start making those adjustments. But like you said, the focus was still all the things that I had to do. The fear would be that if I fail any of these things, I have to restart over, right? So It doesn't matter if you're 45 days in. If you fail,
you start over that day, right?
Yeah. 45 days. If you fail, then day one, the
Another
next day.
75, yeah.
And you don't start from 0. You start from 45. So now by the time you end, it's not going to be 75. It's going to be 75 plus the 45.
Yeah.
You know, so like you don't want to fail. But what I really noticed,
unless you purposely want to, imagine you fail day 74.
Well, I had that conversation with Angelica. I'm like, Angelica, because I was doing my last workout, and I called her and I said, you know, if we restart this tomorrow, or if I fail today and restart tomorrow, it's all the same thing, right? You know that, right? So, but you wanted the feeling of accomplishment, right? You wanted the prize, right? You worked so hard for it, and you wanted the prize after that, right? So, no intentions of starting tomorrow or the day after. Full intentions of getting 2 workouts a day, but maybe taking 1 or 2 days off during the week, and maybe one day off on Wednesday, one day off on Sunday. But I could see the progress from 2 workouts a day. It made me better. The diet wasn't very specific. My diet was I had to finish every day with more protein than I did carbs or fats. Because what I noticed was I didn't eat enough protein for my build type, for my weight, for my height, right? So
yeah, and I think there's a way that you can find out that, not that I'm a nutritionist or anything like that, but you know, with the limited resources, researches that I've done, I think you count your weight times 0.6 or something like that, and that's the amount of protein that you should be
to maintain
that weight without losing muscles, right? Because you were putting a lot of stress on your body. You know, I'm sure you lost some weight; it's visible, but you also didn't want to lose muscle. You know?
So my
it's amazing how, right before you get there, it's amazing how this is so counterintuitive. The secret to longevity is stress on the body. You know, it's the workout, right? And all these new things that are popping up.
Use it or lose it, right?
It's counterintuitive. Basically, it's always what you don't want to do is what's best for you.
My diet was the reason why I had to adopt a diet for this, right? And I needed to just create something simple that was going to be different from what I was doing for a long time. Because, you know, for the year prior to that, I was working out consistently, but I wasn't dropping in weight. And it's not like I was getting huge and gaining all this muscle. So I was just maintaining. I'm like, but I'm, you know, so oftentimes, like in November, here's a 100-mile challenge in November of running. And even at the end of November, I only dropped 3 or 4 pounds. And then this will sound repetitive because everybody has heard this before, but it's in the kitchen. It's not out there. It's not exercising. You know, that's only a small portion of it. If you want to lose weight, it's definitely in the kitchen. And how did that work for me? I noticed prior to the challenge, because I started counting macros and just trying to figure out how much I was eating, just have a better idea of the content of my foods. And I was eating 80, maybe 120 grams of protein a day. Like I'm 200 pounds, 215 at the time. Like I needed to eat more protein and I wasn't eating it. So for somebody who exercises regularly, I probably need 150 to 200 pounds of protein a day. Like, and on the good days, I was getting like 120. Not pounds of protein, grams of protein. And on the good days, I was getting 120. So I'm like, it's not enough. So let me create a diet for myself. I need to finish every day with more protein than I do carbs. And I do fats. So that was a challenge. Some days, you know, if I ate, like you take a slice of bread, 25 grams of carb in that on average, on one slice of bread. And when do you only eat one slice? Most of the time, 2 slices. So that's 50 grams of carbs in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you know, like, you know how much chicken you have to eat or steak you have to eat to get to 50 grams of protein?
A lot. Yeah.
Right. So my beginning weight was 215. My end weight, what I wanted to get to, was 197. On the first 25 days, so I have a picture from day 1 and a picture from day 25, so a third of the challenge in, I lost 15 pounds.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, I have to tweak this diet a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to get to 175 by the time this whole challenge is done. So I tweaked it a little bit, just bumping up my carb numbers a little bit because I didn't want to lose any more than, the 200 or get to 197.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So towards the end of it.
Especially you're a tall guy, it would be disproportional to weight 175.
Yeah. So, but that goes to show that go out there and exercise. And I'm sure that 2 workouts a day was, doing amazing things, especially let's say the days that I worked out, that I walked with a weighted vest, just walking after dinner, bro, that goes a long way.
Goes a long way, yeah.
So I would have dinner and I can't run after having dinner or work out after having a full meal, but I could walk all day, right? So I would have dinner and then, put the baby to sleep, put the weighted vest on, and then I'll go walk. Oftentimes, 9, 10 o'clock at night, oftentimes, headlamp on just so, because it was dark, but I did that many times. Yeah. And then you're doing that and just, especially the walking and running, my mind is not listening to music. My mind is processing things, right? So I'm constantly trying to figure out, I'm taking that time to better myself to another level. Like, how can I process how my day went? How can I process what I have to do tomorrow? So I would take those 45, 50, 55 minutes just to do that.
Right.
That helped a lot. That helped me see, even with the challenge itself, right? I can't fail, right? There's too many people involved here, and none of us want to fail. I don't want to fail, and I don't want anybody to fail, but we'll keep going. I don't want to fail and then give any of my teammates and then the people doing this the opportunity to think, okay, it's okay to fail. No, we're in this together and we're all going to finish it together type of thing. So I use that time, that alone time, 45, 55 minutes, an hour workout while I was running or walking just to process things better. What I did in addition to this, and it goes to show how faithful you have to be to the agreements that you make with yourself, right? With the goals that you set. This challenge for the workout, for the 75 hard, no problem. I made some work challenges on my own, and I failed those. But maybe those challenges were too great for me to accomplish them.
Yeah. You didn't make them attainable.
Exactly. Yeah. And I found there's something related to work that I found to be a blockage that I cannot do, and I wanted to do that 5 or 10 times bigger. So now, for next week, I have one objective only. I'm going to take this one thing for work, and I'm going to do one time. That's my only challenge for next week.
Right.
And oftentimes, let's say, if you want to, in real estate, right? You want to door knock or you want to cold call and you've never door knocked before. That first time will be the hardest time that you will encounter yourself when you have to door knock the first time.
Right.
After that, it's twice as easy.
Right.
Right. After that, it becomes, you do it often enough, it becomes second nature. Right. But the first time, it's big.
The first time is always the hardest time. Yeah. And those are like the challenges like that you just did. They're voluntary challenges. You put your body to a stress. You put your mental to a stress where you chose to do that. I truly believe that will prepare you for challenges in life that comes involuntary, things that happen to you on a daily basis that you have no control over, right? For example, you said preparation. It was imperative for success the day after in terms of your scheduling and stuff like that. Scheduling is so important because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be in jail, locked up in the schedule. But it means the opposite of that. When you put something on schedule, that's actually freedom. Now you put on paper the day that you actually want to have the time, but a lot of times that we don't think that way. It's like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And then all of a sudden you're your day is a mess because you didn't prepare. And there's a lot of challenges that we can't control, that they will come in our lives. You have to enjoy each and every day like it was your last. You have to take nothing for granted, and also learn how to appreciate what you do every day, like the moments. Jordan Peterson says, life is not having margaritas at Jamaica. That happens every now and then. But the way your wife greets you at the door every day when you come home, that happens every day. Cherish that. A lot of people take that for granted. The time that you have on the table with your family and your spouse, cherish that. Be intentional about what you do every day. Become a master in those things, and everything else will fall into place. And that's so interesting, because not too long ago I was on a plane coming from Florida, and I had an encounter with this lady. She first of all, she was sitting on my seat when I was like, man, like this lady's sitting on my seat. And I asked her, I looked at her and I said,
get up.
No. I said, you want to stay there? You can, but I just want, that's my seat. She's like, no, you can sit. And I looked at her, and this is a big story, but this long story in a short version now. I looked at her and I said, are you ready for this? I'm always one to spark a conversation. She looked at me like I was an alien, and she's like, no. I said, oh my God, the lady take my seat. And we have a tough crowd here today. But later on, we start talking a little bit here and there, and she was coming to Connecticut for a reason that she didn't want to come to Connecticut. And I felt in my heart to talk to her about challenges. And without even knowing what she was going through, I said, look, everybody's facing a challenge right now. Everybody's fighting their own battles.
You should have told her, even the pilot.
Yeah. And I took it like on a personal note. I said, making this a little bit personal, I have people in my family that's extremely close to me that is fighting the battle of their lives. Yeah. So it's there. And she looked at me and she said, oh, God must have put you here to make things easier for what I'm about to face. And turns out I kept in touch with her, but she lost her 19-year-old to a car accident. But she said that the encounter that we had that day was kind of like a divine appointment, where God had put me there to like talk to her about these things and talk to her about how we should be ready for these things. Yeah. It'll happen. It's like Jim Rohn talks about this. It's like, take risks in life. Everything is risky. You're coming out of the house, it's risky. I tell you how risky life is. You're not going to make it out alive. Yeah. So this involuntary challenges that come, I feel like by you preparing yourself like you did with the 75 Hard, with the things that you should be doing every day, in terms of to become a better person, to strive to expand your mind on reading, right? To have more time available for you before you give love to your family, like waking up earlier, doing what you're supposed to, even when you don't want to. These are the things. These are the traits of a person who wants to do better in life and who are striving to do that. Because a flood is coming. Yeah. Going a little bit into what we do now, this is a very tough market in real estate. We truly feel like what they did after COVID, putting this 2.5% rate was a pill into the real estate market that we can't get over it, right? A lot of people are sitting on the 3% rate now, or they refinanced, or the rest of them don't have a mortgage.
And now they're hoarding homes.
Exactly. And then a lot of buyers are waiting for the rates to get better. But then when he does, now like it's a whole bunch of buyers trying to buy, and then the price is going to rock again. And now, we're still seeing right now $20, $30, $40, $50,000 over asking just because of the low inventory. Again, involuntary challenges that come to our lives. But I guess what I'm trying to say on this is that do what you can.
Yeah.
With the cards that you're given, just do what you can.
Yeah. They really, they're part of everyday's life, right? I'm a firm believer that challenges will come. And I'm also a firm believer that if you create challenges for yourself, then when real life challenges come, you're better prepared for those, right? So let's say you don't exercise at all, and all of a sudden you start running, and you can run a lot, and then there's always going to be that one opportunity where because you can run well, because you stayed ready, you were able to escape a bear that was chasing you, or you're able to win a last minute race, or whatever the case is, right? Because you stayed ready, and I always like the analogy of the life of a lobster, right? So you go to the restaurant, you go to Red Lobster or any other seafood restaurant, right?
Never been to Red Lobster.
No. And you order this, big lobster. That lobster is, 10, 15, 20 years old, like, the big ones, and it takes forever for it to grow that big. And in every stage of its life, it has a shell, and then it outgrows that shell. So it lives a very tight few days or months in order to break that current shell. It'll let go of that shell, and then little by little start creating another one. And to me, that's the analogy that I use for life. It's oftentimes, you got to take 2 steps back, put yourself through a stressful situation in order to be able to go 4 or 5 steps forward. So that's you getting ready to break that shell. And I use that analogy for everything in my day-to-day, just so I understand that when I'm facing whatever challenges, I'm like, I understand it sucks being in it, and there's outcomes that we can't control, and there's sadness, and there's, and oftentimes you get upset and annoyed.
Yeah. And the feelings are welcome. You can, it's okay to feel sad, mad, or something. How you react to it. Yeah. This sale didn't go through, so I'm not going to make the calls that I need to make tomorrow or something. Like that's not acceptable. But you feel sad or nobody's perfect, right? And
then you just, you get right back to it, and you
get right back to it. Move on. Move on. Yeah, it's I feel like this was a great topic today, challenges, because everybody's facing one right now. Yeah. A lot of people are probably that would be watching this is facing either a voluntary one, going through a 75 hard, just like you did right now. Personally, I'm doing a diet now with a friend of ours that lives in Florida, which is the carnivore diet. We gave ourselves 90 days to eat animal food, mainly red meat, but every once in a while we eat fish or chicken, because of somebody that we learned that from, like this Jordan Peterson. Again, like it cured a lot of diseases that he had. You can look it up for yourself, but he's got a whole 10-minute video on like gum disease, and he sleeps better, he stops snoring, he even like depression, like he just feels energized the whole time after you eat. If you eat a lot of carbs, then you crash after a little while. And he's like, with mainly protein and fats, you feel nothing after you eat other than you're not hungry. So we're trying that. Like you said, it's hard sometimes. I see, especially with the Brazilian bread coming out of the oven, and you know, I like, you know, my yogurt and everything like that. But it's a challenge that I put myself through just to see like what happens. And I truly believe that there's you could do, you know, with moderation, whatever you're gonna do. You know, you don't have to stay a prisoner to like one specific diet, but every once in a while, take an amount of time, make the goal attainable. You know, and you know, that's a game that everybody can win if the goal is attainable. If you do like little incrementally progress every day, you know, you
well, I believe that if you focus on being 1% better every day, just 1%,
slightly better,
just 1%. It's reflecting, right? Looking at yesterday, what did I do yesterday? And if you have to do the same things today, how can I do that 1% better today? The compound effect of that is astronomical.
And that's the only thing that you should be comparing to who you were yesterday.
It's, you know, when we're talking real estate goals, right? Sales goals for the year. You know, right, here's how many houses I want to sell this year. But really, I break that down into daily goals. I don't have to worry about selling 30, 40 homes. I have to worry about all these 10, 12 phone calls that I have to make every single day.
It's a result of each action.
And if I look back to yesterday and I only made 6 calls, I can already know for sure that 30 or 40 homes won't come from that 6 call effort when that effort should have been 10 or 12. Right? So how can I improve that 1%? And eventually get there.
That's amazing. Well, I just want to congratulate you for, I know this is extremely hard.
I heard you through the grapevine that you're going to join us next time.
I think so. And honestly, and I say this publicly here, I was invited to participate on this challenge and I did not pick up the call after that. So a big shout out to you and Angie as well. I just want to say something here. I watched her video about what the challenge did for her on a personal level as well. I thought it was very inspirational.
She said some nice things about her husband.
I don't know who the guy is, but anyway, I advise like younger women or mothers who are going through something right now to go into her Instagram and watch that. That was very inspirational. And the whole thing of you guys like sticking to it was inspirational. Challenges, they come, and it's really, it's a matter of how you're going to react to those things. And I mean, if there's anything else that you want to add, but you're on point. It's a mindset, right? There's a challenge in front of you, whether by design or by default, whether you designed it or it's happening to you, and how you process it and how you get through it. And oftentimes, let's be honest, you can't get through it. Right.
You know,
and you fail. And let's just say you set up a goal and then tomorrow you did like 70% of it or 60%. That beats the heck out of 0.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's picking up the flow from there. You know, if you said you're gonna walk 10,000 steps tomorrow and you did 5, that's better than a regular day that you only did 1,700. So don't beat yourself too much because that specific goal wasn't you didn't conquer that. Just pick it up and go. And if you also are going through something right now or a challenge that you did that changed your life or that you want to share with us, you know, leave the comment below here on the comment box. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here watching us with the Lighthouse Podcast. Great topic today. Thank you, Alex, for sharing that with us. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be inspired by it. I am, and hopefully one of these days I'll participate on the 75 Hard. We'll see you guys next time with the Lighthouse Podcast.